All right. It looks like we are live. It is, I almost said Tuesday, Monday, January 28th, 2019. I'm just going to quickly share this on a couple of my other pages. And if you'd like to do the same, please feel free to do so at this time. Oh, it looks like you can have a little watch party. I wonder how I'll use that. Start watch party. Can I do this? I wonder if this works. Let me try this. Post. All right, I'm just going to try something a little new real quick because I just saw that I can put a watch party going. And I'm just going to test this out. I'm sorry, I'm totally mumbling to myself right now. I'm trying some different things out to see how we can get more people on here, which I shared with you before. And oh, I see. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how these watch parties work, all these new things popping up. So give me 1 minute. I'm just going to share this really fast. If you want to join the watch party, there should be one that just popped up on my personal page. And while I'm doing that, why don't you go ahead and say hello, where you're logging in from, and what was the favorite part of your weekend? What was your favorite part of your weekend? And then I have 2 more things to share this on really quickly, and we'll be ready to rock and roll here. So say hello, where you're logging from, and what was the favorite thing that happened this weekend? And then we will be ready to, oh, this is the last one, cool. Do this. I want to know, do I see these comments? Let me just check real quick. No, so we'll have to open this up a different one. Okay, I know I'm totally talking to myself right now, but I think I got it figured out. So we're going to do it this way. Okay. Let's see who's on here real fast. Violet, what's up, Violet? Linda, hey, Linda, Lisa. Hey, Breck, are you on here? Kathy, hey, Kathy. All right, Carrie, what's up, Carrie? Kimberly, hey, Kimberly, Lisa. Oh, hey, Debbie, what's up? So a couple quick updates before we get started with today. And today we're going to be focusing on momentum. We're doing momentum this week. First of all, goals of the week. Remember, the Monday Facebook Lives, what we want to do is we want to start the week off setting a goal for ourselves. What is one goal that you have this week? Put it out here, share it out here. The reason why is because, one, there's an accountability. We have however many people logging in from all over the world doing this, and so we want to make sure we can have the support system, this accountability system. So share one goal that you have for this week. The second thing that's really great about this is who knows who's going to be on here. I'll tell you just firsthand experience. So many of you know that my TED Talk was finally released, and I have a goal of getting that out in front of 1 million people by the end of the year. And because I've been talking about it, because I've been passing it on, I think that it's already been viewed by over 700 people in less than a few days. So, that's just the power of putting it out there and having people out there who support you. So share your goals, put it out there. If you have a goal to lose weight, there might be somebody out here who can help you lose weight. If you have a goal to do a romantic weekend with your partner, there might be someone on here who has a cottage that you could use for a romantic weekend. Who knows? So put it out there. So what's one goal you have for this week? Put your goal out there. And then we'll all be sure to set mine. Let's see who else is on here. Let's see. Kimberly, hey, Kimberly. Breck, hey, Breck, it is you on here. Good to see you on here. Using my chainsaw. Colleen, playing in the snow. It sounds like there's a lot of snow. Chandra, logging in from Colorado. Oh, awesome. Oh, the upside. I was wondering how that was. Very cool. I heard that was pretty good. I was wondering about that one. Okay, so there is that. Number 2, be sure to Friday. And so what we'll do is with the goals is we put the goals up today, and then Friday we will circle back around and just say how we did with them, get feedback from them, see what we could have done differently. So that way we have this accountability. Speaking of Fridays, This week we are going to do a Q&A on Friday. So we had a vote. Everybody said they'd like to do Q&A Fridays. I'm still figuring out how we can best submit questions for that. If you have ideas, suggestions, could post them in here. I'd love to hear it, but I want to make sure that we have that where it's accessible for everyone. Get on the Facebook Live reminder page. You're going to use this link if you haven't already to sign up to get reminders. All this is I will email you out the schedule every week, and then that way you have easy access to the Facebook Lives. You don't miss any of them. I will send you out the calendar for the coming week on a few days before, so you have that, and then I think that's it. So make sure you get on that. I'll email you updates with it, everything else. Oops, shoot, I'm trying to get this up.
Have you ever noticed?
Quiet. And last but not least, last update. My TED Talk is out. How many of you have seen the TED Talk yet? Has anybody on here watched the TED Talk yet? Let's see. My goal is to continue to develop my rituals, routines. I like that, Linda. Keep my momentum going. My goal is to take over the world. I would do a goal cat in between that to help you get to that. Hey, Marie, good to see you on here. Goals for the week is to read another book and to walk the hallway of my building because the snow and ice outside. Awesome. Very good. Goal for this week is to reorganize my closet and room. I need to work on something like that too. Finish cleaning and organizing the bonus room above the garage. It looks like it's going to be the time of year where there's a lot of cleaning going on. So go ahead and keep leaving your goals. Goal for the week, get a haircut. No, it doesn't sound lame at all. My goal for this week is to listen to myself and check in when I'm tired. Good goal. Lose weight is my goal. Awesome, awesome. A couple of you watched the TED Talk. Very cool. So, thank you. That's really nice of you. I am going to put, my goal this week is to continue to get the TED Talk out there and in front of people. So if those of you who haven't seen it before, just really fast, the crux of the TED Talk is really about helping people heal from loss. It's been a passion project of mine for, since 2007 to help people heal from their losses. I've done different things in different iterations. I've kept most of it kind of behind the scenes. And this TED Talk is kind of my first foray in taking some of this, I don't know what you call it, these theories, concept ideas I've developed over the years and putting it out to the world. But my hope is that talk can be a guiding light, a North Star, if you will, for folks who find themselves in that dark place of loss, and they can use it to lead them out into the light of life. And it's been wonderful the feedback that's been going so far with it, the response that we've been getting. And I have so many of you to thank for that. Not only have many of you have been so generous and gracious in sharing it and getting it out to people, but you've all had such kind and wonderful things to say about it. And that really means a lot to me too, that you would. And please, if there's questions you have about it, ask them. I want to explain it. I don't want to be one of those absent TED Talkers, if you will, where you just do the talk and then people come back and they have questions, they have comments, they want to have a discussion about it. I'm really going to try to be present, be on the comments on YouTube, here in Facebook, as we get this thing going, as we get some momentum behind it, because I want to make sure people are understanding the concepts and that they're able to integrate it, they're able to implement it, because it's one thing to watch something and hear it and say, oh yeah, it was helpful, it's great, but to actually implement it and have transformation come from it, that's where the real magic is. So with that being said, let's dive into today's topic on momentum. So this week we're going to do 4 focuses. This week our focus is on momentum. So we're going to do 4 parts on momentum, and then we'll have our Q&A on Friday. If you're logging in as we're talking, keep posting your goals for the week, and we'll circle back around at the end and we'll reread all the goals. Minus 39 in Saskatchewan. Good God, that is cold. So today's talk is why momentum is the essential ingredient for an epic 2019. So why momentum is the essential ingredient for the Epic 2019. The reason we're talking about momentum right now is because this is the time of year where many of us start to lose our momentum. This is a time of year where the buzz of New Year's resolutions has started to wear off. It's a time of year where it starts to get really easy to make excuses. It starts to get really easy to justify things. This is the time of year where the people that we said that were going to hold us accountable to it start to flake. They start to come up with excuses. It's really cold outside, so it makes it easier to not go and do what you said you're going to do. Life starts to get busier. The holidays are over. Kids are back in school, all those types of things. And so we find ourselves at this time of year where the momentum starts to get deflated, and then it's easy to fall back into old patterns, old habits, old excuses that have kept us stuck and frozen in the past. Frozen in the past, pun intended, for many of you around the world who are dealing with cold, freezing weather right now, which I cannot appreciate because it was, I won't even tell you how warm it was here yesterday because I don't want to have a mutiny on my hands. Which is why we're talking about momentum, because the one thing that's crucial to have and to help us get through those sticking points, to help us get over those obstacles, to help us keep the ball rolling, is we got to have momentum. So I want to read you really quickly a dictionary definition of momentum. Momentum is defined as strength gained by motion or series of events. So strength gained by a motion or series of events. Think about that for a moment. So motion, putting something into motion, or a series of events, right? We go and apply for a job, and then we get an interview, and then we get a job, and then we get a raise. And so all those things have started to happen. Then we get to go on a vacation, and all those things started to happen because of the first thing that we did to put things into momentum. It was going and applying for the job. See, it is so much easier to keep something moving than it is to start and stop. It's much easier to keep things moving than it is to start and stop. This is why momentum is so important. Several years ago, I had the good fortune to go on a backpacking trip through the Andes Mountains in Peru into Machu Picchu. And at one point, you come to the high point on the trail, which is going over this place, and it was called Dead Woman's Pass. I think it was Dead Woman's Pass, and it was about just under 14,000 feet in elevation. My friend who was going with me, he was not the most. He had a really hard time with altitude. Now, to be fair, in our defense, most of the people would hire a porter or someone to carry their backpacks, and we were, overly machismo at the time, so we insisted on carrying our own packs, and we each had probably 40, 50 pounds in our bags. And we're going up vertical. We both live at sea level. And I had done some hiking at altitude before I had climbed Mount Whitney at that point, so I knew kind of where my body was at that. And I was also in really good shape, so I knew what I could do to push myself with. My friend, on the other hand, not quite as much. And he'd always just relied on being able to go around and hunt, run around, hike around at altitude, or run around at sea level, but it was so different altitude. So we get to a point at altitude where, if any of you have ever been at altitude before, you know what I'm talking about. Is as you start to go up, the higher you go, the less air you're able to take in. It gets harder and harder to breathe. And it feels like you could try to take a deep breath in, but you're just gasping for air. It's like no matter what. And if you're moving at all, it feels so much more, there's so much effort to it. Every step you take, it feels like there's someone pushing against you. As you're going up, and if you're walking just a steady space, it sounds like you're racing. If you want something funny to watch, there's a video out there I think it's on my YouTube channel. And if somebody reminds me, I'll try to find it if you can't find it. Of me, I videotaped myself summiting Mount Whitney, and there's a few choice swear words on there too. And I did it because it was probably the last 100 feet or so. I'm breathing so hard, it sounds like I was sprinting. But I'm literally going, just slowly going, keeping the momentum moving. And when we were going through the Andes and going up over this Dead Woman's Pass to the top part here, just under 14,000 feet, my friend would get so out of breath that he would have to stop and sit down. That's what he'd tell himself. I have to stop. I have to sit down. I have to stop and rest. Many times around this time of year, we'll tell ourselves, well, I need to stop and rest. I got to stop and recuperate. And let me make it clear. Stopping and resting when there's I'm using this metaphor. I'm playing with the metaphor usually. I'm playing with a metaphor here. And the reason I'm qualifying that is because I'm a huge believer that when we are physically, we feel that time where we need to fatigue. My good friend was just visiting in town, and he had been sick, and so for him to get better, he needed to rest a little bit more than he did, and so he was stopping and resting, and he was sleeping much more than he normally would. So there's a different kind of rest that's actually resting. But the metaphor I'm playing with here when we're talking about momentum is this. So my friend would get so overwhelmed by the stress and the struggle of altitude. And because his heart was racing, because his breath was shallow, he'd start to panic. He'd start to think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to overcome this. I'm not going to be able to get up the hill. And he'd stop and rest. And he'd wait till his breath would return to normal, which it will if you stop and rest, even if you're at altitude. But then what happens when you get back up and you start to get going again? It is 3 to 4 times harder, isn't it? Any of you who have ever been at altitude before know this to be true. It is 3 to 4 times harder. And then those first few steps, it's like all the weight you thought you were carrying just got quadrupled. And so now instead of just carrying a 50-pound backpack, you might as well be carrying a 250-pound backpack. Now instead of trying to go up an incline like this, you're going up an incline like this, or so it feels. So we'd get going, and then we'd make it maybe another 5-10 minutes, and you have to stop again. And finally, we got to the point where I looked at him and said, listen, buddy, I love you very much. So don't take this personally. But if you stop one more time, I'm going to throw you off the side of this mountain because you're killing our momentum. He looked at me and kind of laughed and was really trying to assess if I was serious, if I was just getting that altitude loopiness that sometimes happens, because what he was doing is he kept killing the momentum. Every time he stopped, it meant he had to start again. Every time we stopped, it meant we had to overcome that extra hurdle, that extra exertion. See, you could have a big rock out in your yard, and to push it could take a lot of effort. But once you get it going and to keep it moving, it takes less and less effort. Any of you who have ever had your car break down or need to move it out somewhere, it runs out of gas or something like that. I remember when I was probably 17, 18 years old, my car ran out of gas and it was stuck in the middle of the road. And it was at a dead stop. I got out, tried to push it. I couldn't get it to go because the car was at a dead stop. But then 2 people, fortunately enough, they pulled over and they got out and they helped me push the car and got it going. And then once it was going enough, I was able to push it because momentum was going behind it. See, momentum is really powerful because once we get started, even though we're going to run up against some inclines, as long as we keep going, we're going to get over it faster and much more successful. If we stop and then we look up at it, it's much easier to say, I don't know if I can do this. Right? How many of you have ever had momentum going and then you stopped for whatever reason and then you never started back up again? I know I have. I have probably 2 books that I have written first drafts of 70 to 80% of the way that never got finished because I would get going on writing, and I hate writing. But if I get the momentum going behind it, I could write. But then once something happened where I stopped, I broke the discipline down, I quit doing it, the books remained unfinished. I'll get to them at some point, but when? I haven't made that priority yet for myself. So we have to keep momentum because goals in motion are going to be much more likely to be accomplished than goals that are fixed and stopped. Right? We are going to encounter hills at any given time. We're going to be up against altitude. But if you stop, it is going to be so much harder to get going than it is if you just keep pushing through and get over that hump. Because what happens when we got to the top, and as soon as we hit that precipice where we weren't going uphill anymore, all of a sudden you can breathe so much better. You can move so much more. And then what was on the other side is if you go up, then you get to go down. And when you're going down, any of you have ever come down from altitude know that when you're coming down from altitude, it's almost effortless, isn't it? You almost have to slow yourself down because you're surprised by how much more easy and effortless it is, how the balance is, how much less resistance there is. I remember coming down from Mount Whitney. At some points, I found myself literally at a full-on trot because I didn't have the resistance of the altitude working against me. I had to tell myself, slow down. This isn't a race. So we want to keep momentum going because momentum, as long as it's in motion, then we can keep momentum moving. If we stop, it's going to take so much more effort and so much more exertion to get going. It will never be as hard as it is to first begin. And as long as you keep moving, even if you have to slow down a little bit, but you keep moving, you will have much more success at things than you ever will with stopping and starting. The second thing I wanted to mention with all you is momentum is really all about, and I think in many ways, potential energy. There is and this has been, twisted and turned in a multitude of ways, but all of us have probably seen the statistics before about the average human has enough potential energy that's the equivalent of like 10 or 20 nuclear weapons, that has enough potential energy to light up a city like Los Angeles for a year or something like that. And that's formulated because if you do Einstein's equals MC square and you take the human weight and all this type of stuff, it works out theoretically like that. And I'm not a physicist. I don't play one on TV, nor am I even close to anything as a mathematician. But I researched about why that was, and there was something to that effect. So let's just think about that for a moment. If we really play with that concept, right, and we all have that level of potential energy inside of us. See, if nothing happens, if we do absolutely nothing, then that energy just sits there with us. It's just nothing but potential. There's an expression that goes, nowhere is there more wasted potential in the graveyard, because the graveyard is filled with people who had so much potential for countless things. Doing really cool stuff, having amazing relationships. And that's not to say that there's not people in there that have had those things, but there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of dreams that die when people die, because they have the dream, they have the idea, they have the concept, they have the potential, but they don't do anything to put it in motion. It stays there because for so many people, getting started seems so hard. I sent a message out to, I'm in Toastmasters. And Toastmasters, for those of you who aren't familiar with what Toastmasters is an organization where you can go to work on public speaking. And I've been in Toastmasters now for probably about 6 years. And I sent a message out to some of my Toastmasters, my people in my group, just talking to them about the TEDx experience and sharing the video with them. And I was telling them that, when I first started Toastmasters, I walked in and sat in the back of the class with my heart racing, praying that nobody would call on me, trying to get through it, hoping that I wouldn't be put on the spot. And I was in there with this desire to make an impact, but I was terrified to speak. I had it in my heart to help people, but I was scared to death of being vulnerable and in front of people. I had been hearing about Toastmasters for years, but it took me years to go because the idea of taking that first step seemed so hard. And I would sit there and tell people all the time, I know I have so much potential. I know I have the potential to reach people. I know I have the potential to help people. But guess what? I wasn't reaching anybody and I wasn't helping anybody. Why? Because I wasn't beginning. I wasn't taking that first step. I kept looking up at the top of the mountain and saying to myself, oh my God, that seems so freaking hard and so far away. How the hell am I ever going to get there? Instead of just getting the momentum going and starting to climb. It's that first step that is always the hardest. It's that first step that takes the effort to get the momentum going. Those of you who follow my Instagram account, you saw that I put for my daily gratitude post a couple weeks ago, getting to watch the rocket launch. There was some rocket that launched into space, took a satellite. And I once read that, gosh, it's something like 50 or 90% of the fuel that it takes to launch a rocket into space is used in the first few minutes of launch. 50 to 90%. And if somebody knows the exact numbers, please correct me on it. 50 to 90%. So think about it. It takes the greatest amount of, so there's this rocket, all this potential energy, right? It could cause this massive explosion if it blew up. All this potential energy, enough potential energy to launch this thing into space. But if it's just sitting there, it's doing nothing. It's just not, that's just that, it's potential. But then what happens is when it launches, it uses up 50 to 90% or whatever it is of its fuel to get going. Because it's the hardest thing to do is just get started. It's the hardest thing to get going because you have that uphill. It's the hardest thing to get over the altitude, to get to the precipice so then you can go downhill. It is the hardest part to get started. And then once it gets going, once it's on its trajectory, it becomes more efficient. It moves better. It works more, right? And it's the same with us. See, those of you who have started and stuck with a resolution this year, it's become easier and easier to keep it, hasn't it? Last year, I said, I'm going to go the whole year without eating dessert. And I have a bit of a sweet tooth. I really enjoy desserts from time to time. So I took away cookies, cake, donuts, ice cream, pies, any of those types of things. Why? A few reasons. Number one, I wanted the challenge. I wanted to just see if I could do it. I wanted to make sure. I just wanted the challenge. Number two, I wanted to. I wanted to make sure I had choice in it. There was times there, and I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but if I had it in my house, instead of having a serving, I'd have 5 servings because I would tell myself, well, I might as well eat it all now, so it's out of there, and I don't have to deal with it. Well, that's not the way to handle it. I could have just thrown it away, but I was so afraid of wasting food. I didn't want to waste anything, so I just eat it all. And number 3, my grandma had just died from Alzheimer's, and we don't know a lot about Alzheimer's, but one thing we know is that sugar is a contributor to it, just like it is with about anything else. And I took one of those DNA test things, and it came back that I had the gene for it or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily say you're going to get anything. And I think we have a lot of say-so in that. But what it does also say is it says you could be more susceptible. And I thought to myself, well, why in the hell would I want to keep eating these things and increase my chances of getting something like that when I just saw all those things with my grandma? So I made the decision to give it up for the year. The first few weeks, it's hard. It seems like everywhere you go, it's there. You can smell it. You have the temptations all around you. Everybody asks you, you want to get frozen yogurt? You want to get ice cream? Something like that. But then once you get through that initial part, it gets easier and easier and easier. It is, what did I say, January 28th? I still haven't had dessert. So now I made it the whole year. I could have it again. I still haven't had cookies. I still haven't had cakes. I still haven't had ice cream. I have zero temptation or craving for it. Zero. I don't even think about it anymore. Now, might I have it again? Probably, yeah. If there's something really special occasion, I might. But it doesn't enter into my realm of thought anymore because I got the momentum going with it. I got started. I kept going. I didn't stop. I didn't have to reset. I just kept going. So this is where momentum is it's you have this potential inside of you. And once you get going with it, that's where the magic really happens. Is this making sense? Is this helpful? Chocolate and ice cream. Is this helpful? Anybody have questions about this? Yes, no? I'm just going to swip the water real quick. And so I wait for you all to write questions or just respond. Yes, cool. Just one other final thought on momentum, then I'll open up for questions, which I should have told you earlier. I'll ask questions. Just one other final thought on momentum, and I'll let you ask questions. See, the cool thing with momentum is we all begin somewhere. We all have to begin somewhere. The ignorant assessment is we could point to someone and we look at them and say, I can't do what they did because I'm not genetically gifted. I'm not talented. Weren't born into privilege. I didn't have the same genetics, DNA, all those types of things with that. And could there be some truth to that? Yeah, absolutely. But the bigger truth is this, is that we all start in the same place. We come out of mom. We don't know how to talk. We can't see. We can't remember things. And we're trying to figure out how to make it work. And then we have to learn to crawl. And then we have to learn to walk. And then we can learn to progress from there. But we all start in the same space. The thing that separates those that we look at and we say, I can't do what they do. They have it better than me. They're lucky. They're whatever it is. It's because they had momentum and they kept running with it. And the rest of us stopped. What separates those, I really believe, at the core, there's several things that separate those from those who achieve their goals and those who don't. Those who live epic 2019s and epic years beyond and those who don't. And one of those things is momentum. The people who are successful at whatever it is they want to be successful with, whether it's their relationship, whether it's whether it's music, whether it's their health, whether it's their wealth, whatever it is, the people who are the most successful are the ones who start and they don't stop. They're the ones that keep going. Any of you who have ever been to a professional sporting event know this to be true. What do you see before the game? You see the players out there all warming up and doing practices, going through the motions. What do they do in between games? They're practicing. Why are they doing that when they're at this elite level? Because they have momentum. And if they stop, the person who has momentum going and keeps going is going to pass them up. So they keep doing the reps, they keep doing the repetitions, right? The people who who have the most amazing relationships, what you'll hear them usually say, they'll say, well, we still make sure to do things together. We still do this. We still talk to each other the way we did before. We work at it every day, right? They started building this momentum, and they were doing these fundamental things to fall in love, to create the relationship, and they kept doing them. The people who have the successful businesses, who have the successful careers that we look up to, what do? They got started. And then what they didn't do, they didn't stop. They kept going. Even if they ran into obstacles, challenges, they kept the momentum going. They knew the hardest thing was to get started. Doing these Facebook Lives weekly like this, those of you who followed me before, you know that I like doing these, but I've been flaky with them in the past. Fully, my admission. I'll do them and I don't do them, and I say them and they'll be irregular, and then all of a sudden I'll say, oh yeah, I'm going to do one, and then I might not do one for another couple of weeks, or maybe a month goes by. And I love doing this. I love being able to connect with people. I love being able to serve people. If I never do coaching with someone, I still want to be able to provide value. I would love for people to be in here and to connect with it and say, gosh, I'm getting so much of this. I would love to be able to go deeper with this and reach out and then do a formal coaching program with me that I can really help. But even if that never happens, I want to be able to serve and put these things out here. And so how did I get the momentum going? I started telling all of you that this is what I'm going to do. Accountability. I created the weekly schedule. And it's still hard for me to get consistent with that yet, because I haven't gotten to the place where it's a habit. I haven't got over the hump. I'm still going on the uphill part of it. But the thing is I have momentum going. Right? Just like for a lot of you, it takes time, it takes effort to make your schedules work, to show up here consistently. But now that I'm doing it consistently, what have you done? You got momentum going on making the time work for yourself, don't you? All of a sudden, the things that were distracting you, keeping you from it, you're finding value in this, you keep coming back because of it. Because we all have momentum going. So if you want to make 2019 an absolutely epic year, and I'm just going to close with this and open up for questions and comments. If you want to make 2019 an absolutely epic year, you got to generate momentum. Whether it is becoming a great musician, whether it is healing from a loss, whether it is losing weight, relationship, making $1 million, whatever your goal is for 2019, it's all going to start with momentum around the habits, the tools, the techniques, everything that you need to do to make that happen. And then once the momentum's going, keep it going. Remember, it takes the most amount of fuel to get the rocket going. It takes the most amount of effort to get started. But then once you're started, don't stop. Just keep taking those steps. Even if you have to crawl, don't stop. Even if you have to slow down to a walk, don't stop. You will get over the hump. You will get over the hill. You will get more momentum on the other side of it. And if you keep putting momentum to work for you, you will absolutely create an absolutely epic 2019. So I hope this has been helpful for all of you. What questions do you have? I would love to answer some questions. Questions, comments. What I like about it is thanks, Colleen. Colleen was just talking about the TED Talk. I feel like my heart will jump out while hiking altitude. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I'm the same way. I was weary of grief and my eyes couldn't stand more tears, so my New Year resolution is to start with small changes. More goals will follow. My mindset is to keep moving forward. That's awesome. I think that's so spot on, Alexandra, is to take those, it's about first steps. It's about those first steps. What's the expression? As cliche as it sounds, a marathon's not run in one step. It's run in the thousands of steps that make up a marathon. But you will never cover all the steps if you don't begin, right? You have to begin. You have to take that first step. You got to generate the momentum. You mentioned feeling like you have to eat everything at once to get rid of it, so it's not there to tempt you anymore. I realized that I've done this a lot lately. What is the best way to break that chain of thought? For me, Wendy, it was just, I know that it's with certain foods I would do it. So I would just make sure I wouldn't bring those foods into the house. Wouldn't make sure I bring them around me. And then the food that I would bring around, make sure it's healthy. And then I can portion that out because I don't mind saving that and having it for leftovers. See, where my conflict would come would be either eat it or throw it away, which is what I do with the junk food a lot. And if I knew I wouldn't throw it away, I'd just eat it. To me, that says I can't have this around. So I just stopped not having it around. And then the food I would bring in, make sure it's healthy. It's stuff that can be edible. I can eat it over multiple meals. And then if you are going to have those types of things, go down and get the single serving of ice cream. Go to an ice cream shop and buy it versus buying the quart of it at the store. If you go to the store, buy the single serving of chocolate cake, the single cookie, as opposed to getting the box of cookies, those types of things. It makes a huge difference. Great question. Sometimes the momentum slows to a point that you can't actually do anything to continue. I think, Kat, it may appear that way. And sometimes what it is we have to get a little bit more creative. So for example, if we go back to that boulder analogy, there's a boulder in the yard and we start moving it and we start pushing it downhill. We start getting going, we get rolling, and then we get it downhill, it gets rolling. And at some point it might stop and it might start to slow. The strategy that we use to get it there might not be the best strategy to keep it going. We might need to get a bulldozer to keep pushing it to that next place because we can't do it by hand. Or we don't have the physical strength at the time. We might need to get some people to help us, right? Maybe it's the weight's too much for us to do on our own, but if we get people around us, this is why I tell you, I offer you all the strategy session at the end of these things, is to get a strategy session. Let's talk about doing coaching, work with me, get some other people in your corner. Because see, what got us to where we were isn't going to always necessarily get us to where we need to be. It just brought us to now. And there's some things that might not work. If what I used before to, when I did my first Toastmasters talk, as an example, I wouldn't use those same strategies and things I did before to do a TED talk. But I had to learn, I had to grow, I had to get some different tools, get more people around me, support systems, and those types of things. So I love that comment because sometimes there's the illusion that we've hit the end, and that may be true. We may have hit the end doing things as we've done, which means it's time for us to step out of ourselves and do something a little bit differently. Good question. Yeah, I love that, Linda. Again, my journey with you had a momentum going that hit a speed bump, but I decided not to give up, but to keep going. So powerful. We're all going to hit speed bumps. Anybody who is going to go after anything that means anything, you will hit speed bumps. I promise you that. There will be obstacles, challenges, walls, all those types of things. They are not going to force you to stop. Only you can choose to stop. Best musicians are the ones who practice. Yeah, I totally agree. What other questions do you all have? Can move anything with the right lever. Yep. Accountability buddy system is so awesome for getting things done. 100%. Wendy, did it kind of answer your question too? Is that helpful? I'm just going to scroll back down and see, make sure we didn't miss anything. I had momentum losing weight, and then I said, oh, I can take a break. No, I screwed up my progress. Awesome assessment, and I appreciate the honesty with it too. Have any of you ever noticed that if you're working on a weight loss goal, as long as you keep working at it, you'll continue to be successful. But if you stop, usually you stop losing weight too. Cool. I don't see any other questions. You bet, Wani. Thank you for being on here. So just a couple of reminders. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about part 2 in our momentum series, which is going to be on, if I have it, somewhere out here, wherever I put it at. Where did I put it at? Well, part two of our momentum tomorrow is going to be, okay, here we go. The 3 big challenges to building unstoppable momentum. So we're going to start going into what are our challenges? What are some of the obstacles we'll face? We're going to go over those tomorrow. And then, so we'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time, same time. Be sure to sign up for the Facebook Live reminder. That's just a way to get on the email list so that I'll email you this calendar out every week at usually on the weekend, a Saturday or Sunday for the coming week schedule. You can use that link. That's when you combine week and link into the same word. You can use that link to get on that list, and it'll just be the email from me. Also, be sure you like and subscribe on here and everything like that. Those of you who joined in on the watch party, what was that experience like? I've never done that before, but I just saw they added that feature. So I would love feedback from you and hear about that. And if you have not watched the TED Talk yet, my TED Talk yet, please, 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 please watch it. And if it resonates with you, if you find value in the message, please feel free to share it, pass it on to friends, family, coworkers, whoever you feel might benefit from it. As I shared earlier, my goal is to get this in front of 1 million people before the end of the year. And so to tie into the comment about momentum, and sometimes it seems like we reach the end, and this is a great way to finish on. In the past, I would have fully sat there and been guilty of this, and I would have done this, okay, I'm going to put it out into the world, and then whatever happens, happens. And then people would respond and interact with it. And if that was it, I would say, okay, that's it. I did as much as I could do. It's not getting any further. I believe so strongly in this message that I'm really committed to getting it in front of 1 million people because I believe that it can help that many people. And so what I know is how I did things in the past to get the momentum going for something like this isn't going to work. So I needed to implement new strategies. I need to get people to help me. Right? This is why I'm putting this all out here. This is why I'm sharing with all of you, talking with all of you about it as much as I have. My gosh, how many of you have heard me mention TED Talk more than 50 times in the last month, right? Because I'm trying to get the momentum going. I'm getting more people involved. I know that I can't move this mountain alone, that I need other people to help me do it. But I do know, and I do believe with all my heart that together we can make it happen. I know that by myself, I can do a little bit. I can throw a pebble and make a pebble cause ripples. But if I want to make a tidal wave, I need everyone involved to help me lift a boulder. And then together we can heave that in and make the tidal wave happen. So perfect example about building momentum. Sometimes it's not going to be, you might seem like you're at the point where you can't go any further because you may not be able to go further doing things as you always have done, but you can always go further doing things differently and getting other people involved. So I hope this was helpful. Is my blog still on my site? Yeah, it's still up there, Violet. Blog's still there. And I hope to see some of you back here tomorrow. I will hop back on the comments and respond to them. So if any of you are watching the replays and you have questions, comments, put them in. I have an appointment I got to run to right now, but I'll circle back around later tonight and answer them. If you have questions about anything we covered tonight, you can post it in here or you can message me. There are 2 strategy sessions available this week. If you're serious about doing coaching, you want to dive deeper, you want to utilize coaching to make an absolutely epic 2019 and work more closely with me, message me about that and I will give you that link. And otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you for your time, your energy, your effort. Huge thanks to those of you who have been liking, commenting on it, who have been supporting each other. Huge thanks to those of you who have been contributing on here. And I know I've just said thanks probably 2 or 3 times, but an extra big thanks to those of you who have taken the time to watch the TED Talk and who have not only watched it, but who have endorsed it by putting it on your pages, who have commented on it. I'll put that out there. The more engagement you have on that, the more it's going to get that out there. And then also, your personal testimonials to it, your personal endorsements when you put on your page and you say something about it, that really means a lot. And I'm just so touched by how kind and generous you've all been with sharing it and talking about it. And I hope that you believe in the message as much as I do. And I really appreciate all of your support in helping me get this out to the people it needs to reach. So thank you for being you. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Will be 4 p.m. tomorrow, 4 p.m. Wednesday, and then noon on Thursday and Friday. All right. Sending lots of love to you all. Bye-bye.